The year is 2014. Sergey Kovalev has just won the WBO light heavyweight title against Nathan Cleverly, and after 3 consecutive title defenses, it's time for him to hunt for the other belts in the division. Bernard Hopkins is the current holder of the WBA and IBF light heavyweight titles, and the Russian Krusher seems to think they would be a good addition to his ever-growing collection of accomplishments. Welcome back to Boxing After Dark, where today we're looking at Sergey Kovalev versus Bernard Hopkins. A fight that not many asked for, but everyone needed to see. Let's get into it. Whilst Kovalev had been on a steady uprising after winning his first belt, Hopkins had already been around the block more than a couple times, having won arrays of different titles across different divisions. From middleweight to super middleweight to light heavyweight, he reigned for many years, and famously became the oldest title holder in boxing history at 47 years of age. 2014 was a prime time for Sergey Kovalev, often dominating fights on a round-by-round basis. If he didn't knock his opponents out with his crippling power, the points would only be more ugly for them to look at, along with their faces. Kovalev almost seemed half machine, but Hopkins was a veteran in the eyes of the sport. With a career spanning 36 years, he'd swung with the best and had some attractive wins on his resume that many would die for.
Sergey was the guy that I need to be able to say to people, I fought the dangerous guy out of the 3 light heavyweight in the world, and let's go.
Having victories over Roy Jones Jr., Oscar de la Hoya, Antonio Tarver and countless others commanded respect, but Kovalev was confident and ready for a literal battle of the ages, and Hopkins himself seemed more than ready for one last hurrah. Whilst many in this time period were rightly scared of Kovalev, Hopkins outright challenged him. Hungry to leave an unforgettable impression on boxing, he wanted to give the Krusher Kovalev the first defeat of his career and prove that the old can still keep up with the young. Many were shocked that anyone would challenge Kovalev during this time period, let alone a man nearing the age of 50. But any true fan of B-Hop knew that he feared nobody and could give any fighter a run for their money. The fight came on November 8th of 2014, after a brief but tense build-up to the bout. Despite Kovalev being the favourite to win the fight, no one could be ruled out. It was going to be a war of attrition, and you couldn't put it past either of them to bring the heat when push came to shove. As Kovalev enters the ring, focused and robotic, Hopkins comes out with his iconic alien mask in hand, hyping up the crowd and bringing the energy to what could have been a drab ring walk for the fans. Along with getting the fans excited, it showed the headspace of the two fighters. Whilst Hopkins was excited and wanted to bring entertainment for the fans, Kovalev was static and only had one thing on his mind: the light heavyweight titles to further his career.
But nothing lasts forever. Or does it?
Kovalev fights have this kind of tension because he does hit with both hands so hard that he can change a fight with any shot.
As you see, you got Hopkins constantly on the move. That's what you have to do to an older fighter. You got to constantly.
Down goes Hopkins on the first solid right hand that Kovalev threw. Hopkins was down twice against Jean Pascal. Came back to earn a draw in the fight.
And Kovalev better be careful now. Although you had him down, he's going to be throwing big punches.
Dramatically and vibrantly on the moment that Kovalev landed that right hand and Hopkins went down.
Kovalev lands the first power punch of the match and sends Hopkins to the floor before the crowd could reach their seats. Seemingly unhurt, Hopkins springs back to his feet and gets his gloves back in position to fight while smiling. Kovalev scores the opening knockdown of the fight.
If you watch the first replay very carefully, you can see Kovalev's promoter, Kathy Duba, rise out of her seat and thrust her hand in the air.
He's doing now. He's not allowing Hopkins to take his time. And that's what most young fighters don't do. But what he better realize is that Hopkins is
going to the body.
Makes him very nervous. Not smart now. He didn't go at his head.
He's too old. His feints are slow.
As the crowd settled and the second round began, many expected Kovalev to try for the knockout, knowing his power and how old Hopkins was. But Kovalev has something different in mind. Hopkins was yet to lose by knockout in his multiple decade-spanning career, and it seemed unlikely that tonight would be the night to change things.
No way Bernard Hopkins was the winner of either round on the scorecards. Down 3.
Breathing, not get ahead of himself, keep
throwing.
Which is what he better do, because that's what Bernard is going to start doing now. That's when you know that Bernard is beginning to get frustrated. Just showed up.
Yep.
Oh.
Hopkins coming back.
He can't continue to be a...
Okay, the knockdown might have been fool's gold.
Yeah, but you saw how he got caught with a shot. Just...
Feel Kovalev salivating. Caught him with another hard shot there. CompuBox numbers in round 3. Hopkins was 4 of 12. Kovalev was 14 out of 50.
Harold, you may be right.
Think about what we just said, guys.
Even under this assault and how anxious Kovalev still seems in the corner. But Kovalev can all the way relax you.
Put you to sleep. There's a good right hand by Kovalev again. Caught him in the corner. Kovalev. That right hand scores as well.
Hopkins bounces around the ring, almost looking younger than Kovalev himself, but refuses to land any punches of substantial value. Kovalev patiently waits for Hopkins to back himself into the ropes and lands himself some short, sweet combinations.
Round 5 of a scheduled 12. So far, Kovalev appears to have won all 4 of the rounds.
So why would he not?
To get on the inside of Kovalev.
Doing enough yet. See how Hopkins took a gamble right there?
He's quite comfortable fighting at a slow pace.
That's the best thing he can do. And doing that weapon
He's hurt by something on the inside, maybe a right hook.
But see how he making Hopkins work on defense? This is what guys don't...
Hopkins stays fluid, trying to tire Kovalev out to see how he handles the late rounds of boxing, having never gone past round 8 at this point in his career. In doing this strategy, B-Hop seemingly sacrifices the first half of the fight. Kovalev continues to slow play the bout and refuses to give Hopkins what he wants.
Body shots. The right hand upstairs.
Oh, there he is. Good shot.
Dawson fights are often conveniently overlooked.
Style body drop.
Athleticism.
Well, they didn't have the does.
Okay, Jim, I got it 60 to 53, 6 rounds to nothing. Sergey Kovalev.
Requires a kind of power that he hasn't often shown.
Bernard's hitting him here.
Just hit Kovalev with probably the best right hand. He hit it with all night.
Crowd chanting "One punch at a time" for Bernard.
May not be true in Kovalev.
No one has ever knocked out Bernard Hopkins.
Hopkins lands his first big punch of the fight with a swift, crashing left jab, countering an attempted combination by Kovalev, followed by a lightning-fast right hand on top. The alien Hopkins refuses to capitalize on the brief spurt of pain inflicted and mellows out, giving Kovalev control once more.
He's never been past 8 because he knocks everyone out. And Hopkins has been hit and dropped in this fight.
As you see right there.
Good body shot. Now Hopkins is in the corner. And this
can't let him preserve his legs like that.
I thought he was going to go down. Hopkins weathered that right hand, but he's in trouble in the corner. And now Kovalev backs off.
Good hook by Kovalev.
Hopkins lands a right, the crowd goes berserk.
Kovalev lands a destructive overhand punch to Hopkins, wobbling him. He then backs Hopkins into a corner, losing all focus of his game plan, going in for a potential knockout, but Hopkins slithers away and lives to fight another round.
But on Harold Letterman's unofficial scorecard, he's got the kind of scoring pad that makes that seem irrelevant.
Left has ever faced as a professional.
Involve a formula for winning the fight.
Tried to do what Hopkins is doing.
And now he's trying to wake him up and become a little bit more entertaining. A good right hand by Hopkins again.
Throwing about 38.
Kovalev. He can't waste punches. He can't take risks.
He can cut the ring, forces the body.
At 49 years old, Bernard Hopkins takes Sergey Kovalev to round 9, the furthest he's gone so far in his professional career. But Kovalev doesn't look any less tired than he did in round 1.
Okay, Jim, I got it 9 rounds to nothing. 90 to 80, Sergey Kovalev round gets an extra head, and I don't see him slowing down one or anything.
He's very small.
Good hard left hooks by Kovalev.
It's hard for Hopkins. Oh, good right hand by Hopkins.
Is now.
Of course, that's what Hopkins wants. Oh, good hook.
Hard left hook by Kovalev.
I think that left hook was the best left hook he's landed. Oh, good hook by Hopkins. The left hook was the best hook that Kovalev landed all night.
That this fight took their young light heavyweights on the way up.
Oh! Kovalev is hurt.
Left hook.
12th round. He shot, but he seemed Kovalev's punches.
Well, he caught a right hand there and he's clowning. The card shots in the corner right now.
Don't realize, right there. This is a fight that Hopkins won't go and fight. It's stupid on Kovalev's part to trade with him. If he wears something.
He's ambitious. 30 seconds count.
Right now.
He would get.
Kovalev hammering Bernard Hopkins from pillar to post. As we get to the final bell.
Kovalev proves he can handle fights that go the distance, landing the most punches on Hopkins in one round than any other fighter has in the final round of the fight.
We go to the scorecards. 120 to 107, 120 to 106. All three judges score it unanimously for the winner. From Russia with love, Sergey Krusher Kovalev.
After the fight, there was no upset, as Kovalev won all 12 rounds on all three judges' scorecards, and massive respect was shown across both fighters, with Hopkins being shocked at how well Kovalev held up in the later rounds, and Sergey being flabbergasted at just how much energy Hopkins had throughout the whole fight, despite the punches he took along with his age.
Very tough opponent. He's Bernard Hopkins. He's very good, keeping distance and keep control, you know.
He fought a great technical fight. He uses reach and he uses distance, and that's I think that was, matter of fact, I know that was the key to the fight.
After respect was shown both ways, the match concluded positively, and they both looked to their futures in boxing. Kovalev would further his journey to become the undisputed light heavyweight champion, eyeing the reigning WBC champ Adonis Stevenson. A fight he sadly never got. Whilst waiting for this impossible fight, he would go on to beat Jean Pascal for the vacant WBC Diamond Light Heavyweight title. Hopkins, meanwhile, would go on to have one more roll of the dice against a young Joe Smith Jr. for the WBC Light Heavyweight title. Sadly, Hopkins was knocked out for the first time in his career, making it a good time for the executioner to hang up the gloves.